Some readers have asked that I give my opinion regarding a prophecy made by Thomas Horn for the Wormwood prophecy. In two of his books and various interviews, Horn relates a prophetic vision he had of an asteroid striking Earth. His success with two previous prophetic dreams gives some credibility to his claim. He associates it with the trumpets in 1 through 4 in Revelation, and with Apophis, which NASA projects to pass near Earth in 4/13/2029. He subtracts 3.5 years to compute the last possible date for the rapture, around 10/13/2025 at the Jewish Feast of Booths. Horn's simplistic calculation is represented in this chart. We have the 7-year tribulation, 3.5 years for the first half of the tribulation, 3.5 years for the second half of the tribulation. He puts Wormwood roughly in the middle of the tribulation. So you would subtract 3.5 years from that, and you would have the date of the rapture. Wormwood minus 3.5 years equals the time of the rapture. His calculation is far too simplistic and errs in multiple ways, however. He fails to factor in the probable 13-month gap of the 6th trumpet in Revelation 9:15. He fails to factor in the 5-month gap of the 5th trumpet, Revelation 9:5. Thus, he has failed to factor in an 18-month gap between the middle of the tribulation and Wormwood's trumpets 1 through 4. He mistakenly placed the rapture of 3.5 years from the middle of the tribulation. But even in this standard dispensational model, there will be an unknown period between the rapture and the start of the tribulation. More likely, the rapture will take place at least 7 years, plus that unknown period of time before the middle of the tribulation. When God Intervenes, The Beginning of the End by Douglas Berner is a book which provides excellent discussion, numerous charts. He, as well as some other scholars, believe that the beginning of the day of the Lord, and therefore the time of the rapture, would occur around 3.5 years before the tribulation starts. The initial battle of Gog and Magog will take place at that point. Berner gives this chart of the standard dispensational model, the pre-tribulational rapture, in which he calls attention to the fact that there will be an unknown length of time before the 7 years of tribulation starts. Again, this is an unknown length of time. Horn has failed to factor in this unknown length of time. In this more detailed chart, the timing of the war of Gog and Magog, Berner, as other scholars, would place it somewhere around 3.5 years, plus or minus, before the 7-year tribulation. In Berner's chart, he has put a plus or minus. I would change that to a plus. In all likelihood, we'll have 3.5 years plus 7 months plus an unknown period of time between the rapture and the beginning of the tribulation. In the fullness of times, Berner has given a more detailed chart regarding the seals and the trumpets and the bowls. Of course, our focus is on the trumpets. Since Horn is going to place Wormwood at trumpets 1 through 4, these are the primary focus of this discussion. Berner, in his model, spreads them out a little bit more so than I would. Berner and I are very similar in our perspective, but in my chart, I place the trumpets happening much more quickly together. This would be compatible with Horn's thought that the asteroid hits Earth and is described very quickly in terms of seals 1 through 4. I concur that is a very good possibility. A more realistic calculation of when Wormwood would strike is shown here in this chart. Israel needs 7 years to burn or convert the weapons used against her into fuel. So you see here we have the unknown period of time, then we have 7 months, and then we have the first 3.5 years of burning the weapons, followed by the second 3.5 years of burning the weapons, which would be the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, followed by the second 3.5 years of the tribulation. So the 7-year tribulation is preceded by 3.5 years of burning of the weapons, the first 3.5 years of the burning. Israel needs 7 months to cleanse the land of bodies first. The bodies have probably been contaminated by nuclear blast, and they will need to be removed first. A relative short, unknown period will happen before that point, as I have put there at the beginning of the chart. Wormwood might conceivably happen somewhere in either of those 3 time periods. It will strike the other half of the planet, leaving Israel largely undisturbed. If Wormwood is an asteroid, as Horn believes, I am inclined to locate it in the first part of the above projected time frame for Wormwood. Let's focus in on that part of the chart. Here we have the span of time for Wormwood. If Horn is correct that Wormwood is Apophis, then his calculations need to be corrected to allow the rapture any time from 2025 to 2028. Most likely, in my opinion, on the Feast of Trumpets during one of those years. For Planet 7X enthusiasts, the time frame can be expanded anywhere from 2021 to 2028. Planet X calculations make 2021 most likely, with probability decreasing in subsequent years. But 2021 through 2024 seems to be an unlikely stretching of Horn's projection, making 2021 the least likely. Again, my personal preference, I would locate Wormwood somewhere in the time frame you see here. But we can give a wide range for Wormwood. We could put it at 4/13/2029, deep into the 3.5 years of the first half of the burning of the weapons. Or we could project that it would happen soon, very soon after the rapture, within a few weeks, maybe a few months after the rapture, so we could place it here. My personal preference is to place it somewhere around this point, maybe after a few unknown months and weeks and the 7 months. So the rapture could potentially happen somewhere between 2025 to 2028, probably more so around 2026 or 2027. But again, we're only talking about approximations and probabilities. I have a much more detailed article that I will place on my website, which you can find at mythology.org, unconditionalsecurity.org, or theouterdarkness.org.